Wait, so you're going to pick apart other creators' video and assume they are narcissists immediately? I'm actually going to play the video that you put this comment on at the end of this video, because I know that people sometimes won't click over, and this is going to be on more than one platform, and I think context matters. So, hi Marianne, I come in peace, just so you know. I'm not sure if you watched the whole video or if you just caught on to the part where I was talking about narcissistic parents, and doing a project where I am creating content from their content in a way. And not all estranged parents are created equal. I think that you might agree with that. I'm putting the parents who are estranged in shadow, and maybe a couple of times I'm a little tongue-in-cheek in terms of the animation and things like that. I'm changing voices. I'm not interested in creating more division. I'm not interested in a war or anything like that. This is not that. I have a soft spot for two types of people in the estrangement community, and I might come up with a third one as I speak about this, because I don't script my videos and things like that. One is for the estranged adult child, because I am one, and I have been one for over 30 years. I do have a mother who is a sociopath and a narcissist. I've had many professionals, this was not my point of view, in the field of psychiatry and psychology from the time I was 26 years old and went into therapy, and I was already no contact for about 4 years, who have told me the same thing over and over and over again, maybe with different words, but at the end of the day, kind of diagnosed my mother by profiling, much, the same way that law enforcement, does that with serial killers and things like that. I'm very, very careful and aware of the fact, one, I don't have the qualifications to diagnose anyone. Two, I cannot diagnose someone based on a video. That would be ridiculous. Three, I don't call people narcissists unless they have labeled themselves one, like these self-aware narcissists. I don't even necessarily like talking about people as a certain thing or labeling them. I use words like narcissistic to address behaviors, lack of empathy, emotionally immature, toxic, things like that. But I'm really going after behaviors, not the people themselves. I mean, we all have toxic behaviors from time to time, and maybe even more often than that. That doesn't mean that we're entirely a toxic person. Context matters, right? The patterns of behaviors matter. So going back to my soft spot, estranged adult children who have dealt with narcissistic parents that are so emotionally immature or have so much toxic behavior or narcissistic behavior that being in a relationship with them became more painful than not being in a relationship with them. It was too hard, too difficult to continually deal with someone who you are being traumatized by. And that trauma is emotional abuse by and large, right? Usually it's not physical when we become adults. And emotional abuse, just so you know, and not just you, Marianne, causes the same type of brain damage as physical abuse does, barring obviously a TBI kind of thing. Let's use like common sense in here. And again, I'm not saying this to you, so I'm not being snarky with you. I'm just covering all my bases for the commenters that typically come in when I make videos, right? So I prepare for everyone when I'm speaking. And I'm not going to sit here and say, as I speak about this, that every estrangement is the same. And I was really clear about that in the video that I made. Some of us pass down trauma. I also have a soft spot, here's the second one, for estranged parents who pass down trauma. And the reason for that is because I was also one of those. And I repaired my relationship with my adult daughter, and that was over 20 years ago. Our estrangement, it felt like forever, but it was under 3 years. It was a significant amount of time. I lost memories with her, for sure. And all that to be said, I've been on both sides of the track, and so when I'm speaking about estrangement, I'm speaking about it from a certain lens of experience that is probably broader than a lot of estranged parents out there who haven't been on both sides of the track or who haven't repaired their relationships with their children and maybe don't want to. Not everybody wants to. We can acknowledge that. That's okay. But for those parents who do want to, attaching themselves to creators who are giving them an out because it feels good, like you don't have to apologize, or boundaries build walls. And I'm using common language that I'm hearing over and over again from different creators who are estranged parents who haven't repaired their relationships and don't really look like they're going to, based on their lack of self-awareness and willingness to even entertain the idea of taking accountability. The parents who want receipts. I want to know everything. Like, what did I do exactly? It doesn't really work that way. You know, it's a pattern of behavior and a way that we make our children feel. And receipts only open up dialogue for you to go, it didn't happen that way. And it's problematic. I'm not saying you don't have a right to any of the examples of what was done, but you may not remember your behavior as being what your adult child received that behavior as. I certainly didn't. When my adult daughter came to me, some of it I knew damn well. Absolutely, no problem. I knew exactly what she was talking about, remembered it, knew like it wasn't going to age well, didn't know it at the time, kind of thing. And then there were other things that I didn't remember at all or the way that she did. And at the end of the day, the fact that those things hurt her was enough for me to go, yeah, they're valid because you remember them. Just because I don't remember them that way doesn't mean they're not valid and they didn't happen. So when I see estranged parents out there saying like, you know, it's the internet's fault, it's therapists' fault, as if like we have an agenda that it's beneficial for us as therapists, I'm a therapist, to see people estranged. It's actually kind of bizarre to me, that thought process, because granted, I'm sure there's therapists who do encourage estrangement, and they shouldn't be. We shouldn't be encouraging decisions for our clients. Our clients need to have the tools, you know, building up and developing to make their own decisions. And I will tell you that I know a lot of therapists, especially old school therapists, that would do anything possible to save the family relationship because it's blood. And actually they move in the other direction. What about that? We don't talk about that at all. And then saying, you know, it's a cult and it's a trend and this, that, and the other. I mean, a trend just means that something is on the rise. It isn't the cause of something. But the way that some estranged parents speak about the trend, they're making it like it's the cause and everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, like back in my day when we all had to have, I don't know, Sassoon jeans. And this is not that. So yes, I'm making a series of videos on estranged parents, and actually one of the ones that I did, which just fills my heart with joy, was an estranged parent who repaired her relationship with her adult children, child, in-law, grandchildren, the whole 9 yards. And I also featured that because I'm here about healing for everybody. And I think it's alarming the number of estranged parents that are out there trashing their adult children and saying, you know, apologize for what, and, you know, blaming everything else under the sun, and, you know, ending up connecting to, I keep saying, you know, vulnerable estranged parents out there who are beside themselves because they don't know what to do next, and they don't know how to grieve the loss, that they don't know if it's permanent or not. They don't know what they should or shouldn't do to try to repair the relationship, all of these different things. And when they find channels that absolve them from accountability, it feels good for a moment. And that moment could cost them their relationship with their adult child in eternity, because of the fact that they're not preparing themselves for when the estranged adult child comes back and the healing of that relationship, which I think ultimately is the win-win situation for everybody involved, where that's possible. And if we can't take accountability, we can't change anything in the dynamic, that means the relationship won't heal. Blaming it on outside sources doesn't help the situation. And I'm not talking about, just in case, somebody's going to bring it into the room, parental alienation. I'm not talking about that. I'm not even addressing the content that features that, because that's a whole nother dynamic. I will say though, with parental alienation that takes place in childhood, and I've spoken on this in the past and actually co-wrote a book about it, a gentleman who had an experience with parental alienation. A lot of times those kids grow up and they come back, and it's important for those parents to be prepared for when their children come back as well. And the reason they come back is eventually they realize that the narcissistic, not saying narcissist, parent who created the estrangement is the one who was problematic, not the other parent, and that they were brainwashed. So in their adult life, when they gain some life experience, and I know it doesn't give them back the time, in the relationship, a lot of times they do come back. I don't know if people are aware of that or not. So anyway, I'm not going into content regarding that, because admittedly, although I wrote a book about it or co-wrote a book, it is not my area of expertise, and I prefer to stay in my lane as much as possible unless I see something that I feel knowledgeable about and comfortable enough about to make commentary on. So no, I'm not out here looking to pick on anybody or call anybody a narcissist. It's not what I do. And I just wanted to let you know that. So wish you all the best, and I'm here to be constructive. Although sometimes I will admit I'm a little snarky sparky, but that's okay. I'm allowed. I'm not perfect. I'm human, just like you. I need your help with something. Take a minute and stick with me. I have a favor. It's small and it's beneficial to anyone out there who is seeking more healing. I want to do a series where I break down the videos of estranged parents. I'm planning on doing one every single week, and the reason that it's beneficial for somebody who is on their healing journey from a narcissistic parent is because it's really going to drive home the fact that it was never you, for starters, because I know a lot of adult survivors carry a level of self-doubt, self-gaslighting, self-blame. I mean, especially for those of us who lost the entire narcissistic family system. Why are they all together standing with the abuser while we're alone? They leverage that against us. And I feel like breaking down these types of videos and also showing the patterns of language and abuse from, I'm not going to say horse's mouth, I'm going to say jackass's mouth. Come on, I have to have a sense of humor in here somewhere. Anyway, if you know, you know, right? So I want to feature these videos, and I'm not going to do it in a way that allows anybody to go and harass these creators or anything like that. It's not my interest to go after these estranged parents. It's my interest to support the victims and the survivors of these estranged parents, period. Beyond that, I have estranged parents in my therapy practice. Because of the fact that I focus on adult survivors of narcissistic abuse, inevitably, I also end up with some of the parents because they were victims who ended up passing down trauma, either by marrying the love that they know from childhood and creating that family dynamic, or being emotionally immature and not coming around soon enough before either the damage was done or before their adult child went no contact. Sometimes I have parents who are in that low contact phase, and we're able to work together to slow that down and even not end up no contact. I feel like these estranged parents in particular, just like those so-called self-aware narcissists who have platforms, play to the vulnerability of parents who did not abuse their children but ended up in estrangements. And the problem there is that these parents who are estranged are looking for community and healing, and instead of getting that, they're learning the opposite. They're learning that they don't have to validate their children, that their children owe them something and all this and that and the other. And I know somebody's going to go and say like, yeah, but they should know better and whatever. Listen, we're human beings. And when somebody's vulnerable and when somebody's in pain and you have an estranged parent out there who's building a community for them, it's extremely cult-like even, no big shock there, then, you know, sometimes people get their head twisted around. It doesn't mean that their head doesn't get back on straight, but if it doesn't get back on straight before they end up in a situation where they've nailed the last nail in the coffin with their estranged adult child, then it's done and dusted. Because rarely does a parent who's estranged get more than 2 chances. Sometimes 3, rarely 3. And because I am an adult survivor of a mother who's a sociopath and a narcissist, who's been estranged, no contact, I walked away over 30 years ago, I would never wish this on anyone. And if I can help some of these relationships to be repaired by supporting the section of the estranged adult parents who are coachable, who want to do better, who weren't child abusers, but rather passed down trauma, then I want to do so. Because if I could have had my mom, I would have done anything for that. I did try to do anything for that. I didn't realize, of course, that my mother, well, she's a monster. I mean, full stop. Like, I didn't realize that there was nothing repairable there. She is not a representation of every single estrangement, and neither am I. And I prefer to see people be able to remain in their family in healthy relationships than end up estranged. That's all. So I would appreciate your help. And how can you help me? Now let's get to the nitty-gritty. In the comment section, please drop a comment of who you would like me to feature. Maybe there's a video that you would like me to feature, so put a link for it. I am not interested in going after these estranged parents, so what I'll do is I will make a video featuring that video or that creator, whatever it is, whoever it is, and I will be blocking their faces and their names and all of that, because I'm not looking to create more division, although I think they do a good enough job on their own. I'm looking to create a healthier, healing environment for everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your help in advance. I need your help with something.